This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Hey everyone, it is me. We are here. Joseph is here too. Say hi, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Boom, boom, boom. We're recording.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I am recording this on the computer now.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Boom. All right. It says it's recording. Boom, 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 boom. I am apparently recording.
The entire bottle of control. They're all exactly the same.
Crypto art, and then what it really is an NFT.
Wow. Eddie wants to slap the bag.
So this is the next best thing.
DeFi is going to be a bubble.
It's provably scarce.
With Mad Dog.
Crypto, gold, and silver.
Transparent substance.
Take my money, start a war with it.
Without further ado.
Cheers to you, brother.
Get shit done.
Because the system has to collapse before that.
Cheers, I feel much better now.
Cheers.
Wow, that was heavy.
Boom. Welcome. Blockchain and Booze, number 147. 147 weeks straight of this. So stoked. Really quickly, before I forget, especially because Joe is paying attention because he's here today, I want to thank Lunar Crush for streaming this on their Twitter account and for always promoting it through the Lunar Crush app. Also, if you guys aren't already users of Lunar Crush, you're out of your mind. You should be a user of Lunar Crush. And I'm totally conflicted, but I'm also a fanboy. And so if you watch this show, you know that already. If you're watching on one of those streams or on LinkedIn or wherever, YouTube, go to blockchainbooze.io. It'll redirect you to the DGH events platform. And from there, you can actually communicate with the community, chat a little bit. I monitor that chat too during the stream. And afterwards, when we're done, you'll be able to turn on your camera and hang out with the community. I've literally met people there who have created startups. We've invested in companies who have met each other after the show. And it's pretty awesome. So welcome. Hey, Santiago, come backstage where we were just talking about it. Timed. You too. See you in the chat. All right. This is a fun one. Baron Davis should be joining us any minute. But regardless, we've got Sid and Sid. I think it's both of your. I feel like Sid Mofya, Sid M. You may have been on one of the Blockchain Booze episodes leading up to today.
Yeah.
Like we've done so many different things. I feel like it had to have been done. But Sid S. For sure, welcome. First time on Blockchain and Booze.
Happy to be here.
And Joe, my regular wingman. How you doing?
I'm good, man. We're trying to come up with nicknames for these guys. I mean, Sid S. We got Merlin.
Yeah, Merlin, because it's like the Wizard of the Round Table, you know?
Yeah. But I don't know. Sid the Kid keeps rolling off my tongue really easily. So I don't know.
You're making, because Sid S is so young, you're gonna make Sid M feel old, even though he's not old. You know, like
he's like the mafia boss, and I'm the wizard. It's
The wizard.
Mafia and Merlin. It's like
Crosby. I mean, he played for the Penguins forever. If you're a hockey fan, I mean, you know, Sidney Crosby, Sid the Kid. I mean, he's still Sid the Kid even when he grew up and retired. I don't
That's
know
right. He is. Well, yeah, absolutely. I'll take it. Honestly, I'm happy being a kid.
Awesome, man.
And if you're going hockey references, then we just have to call Sid M the Great One.
Great one.
Absolutely. I call him that every single Zoom meeting. I'm like, oh, it's the Great One. Yeah, of course.
That's right. It'll stick. You just need like to say it 2 or 3 times, and it's gonna be the thing.
That has the potential to get to your head. The Great One, right?
So heavy is the crown.
Yeah.
That's true. You need to. If you got to do all round table style, Excalibur kind of references. So Merlin makes sense. But I honestly don't know any of the any of the other characters. There's,
we should do one in the future, like
That's
just
true.
have a whole round table happening, in costume and everything. Maybe Halloween we could do a.
Ooh,
I like that.
If the nicknames stick, I'm gonna expect at the next Draper Venture Network event to see you guys in costume.
Sure.
I'll wear like in Fantasia where Mickey Mouse is like wearing the like blue ears, and then he has when you go to Disneyland and like Mickey Mouse looks like a wizard. I should just dress like that.
That'd be pretty awesome. It would be pretty great because normally the only person who makes a spectacle of themselves at Draper events is Tim, right?
Yeah.
So Tim will wear the lab coat, will sing a song, will read a poem, and that's just like the first 15 minutes. It's pretty great. So for everyone watching, the Sids and Joe and I are obviously all good friends at this point, working together on some really fun stuff. So we all know each other, but I'll give a little bit of the high level overview. Sid Mofya here at the top of the screen is the director of. Is the director the right title? I think you're the director of the network, right? You're the man. He runs the Draper Venture Network, which is a network of funds and high net worth individuals and family offices and groups who co-invest along with Tim and other Draper Network funds. The idea is to build a global network of funds around the world who make investments together. And Sid runs that. Sid S down below, Sid the Kid. He is a part of the network. I think you were like an intern a year or two ago and had this idea to launch a syndication platform. I know that Tim has been talking about syndicating deals forever. We've done it already for years and years, just not on a table. And Joe, you guys know as the CEO of Lunar Crush, he recently joined the Draper Venture Network roundtable, which is what's being announced today. But before we jump into everything, can we start with you, Sid, the great one here at the top? Give us a your background in the overview kind of thing, for people who don't know you yet that are joined us in the stream.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sid Mofya. Mofya is a Zambian name. That's where I was born and raised. I moved to Silicon Valley, 9 years ago, to join up with the Draper Network. The Draper Network at the time was spinning out of DFJ. It had been part of DFJ, and now it was becoming its own organization. And I joined up basically to help with that. So my background before that, pretty varied. I worked in the oil industry in the UK and consulting in Zambia, and I did some nonprofit work in Tanzania. So there's no rhyme or reason to what I did in the past and what I'll do in the future, and I like that. So now, running the Draper Network, it's all really about bringing great investors from around the world together to work together to help each other. And I feel privileged to be able to work with some really, really amazing people like Alon here and his partner, Joseph at Draper Goran Home. And we have, 20 other funds like that right across the globe.
Not exactly like us. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you're uniquely great and uniquely amazing. All the fund managers that we work with are uniquely amazing in their own way. So when we get together at least twice a year. So we're gonna get together in May for our ecosystem gathering, and we get together in the fall as well. And it's always a family affair when we do that. So I just feel very privileged to be part of this great family.
Awesome. Thank you, Sid. Sid, I've got so many things to say about the network from my perspective, but I'm gonna wait until we go through the intros. It was really funny, by the way. Last week we had Adam Draper on, and between the two of us, we can talk. And I think we were like halfway through the stream, and Adam was like, "Well, let me finish my introduction." We're like 30 minutes in. It was pretty great.
Sounds about right.
Sid the Kid, give us your background.
Yeah, no. I think my mom and dad are watching this. They just sent me a message. Hi, mom. Hi, dad.
Actually, yeah. If you're watching on one of the streams, say hi, and I'll bring your comment up like this one. It's it's very common.
I don't think my mom and dad are that technologically
It's a
advanced.
very common occurrence that my mom will see the stream pop up on Facebook and comment, and I bring her comment up.
Nice.
It's pretty great. There's actually a picture of her with Adam Draper in 2015 when Adam Draper came down here to talk about Bitcoin, and there was a photo booth at the event. And Adam and I were taking pictures. My mom was standing aside, and Adam grabbed her and had her photobomb in our photo booth. It was pretty great. She's obviously an OG in the crypto space now. So
there you go. Yeah. But yeah, no, hi mom, hi dad, and whoever else is watching. I started, my crypto journey started when I was like a pre-calc student. This was like 2018, 2017, 18. This was like peak, that bull run was incredible. And everybody was talking about like trading it. And I remember like going on my calculator app, like calculating, what's like 12,000 times the all-time high right now? That's what I could have gotten. And I'm like hating myself that me as like an 8-year-old back then didn't tell my dad like, oh, you should have invested in, Bitcoin and all that stuff. Yeah. But I really wanted to understand it as a technology. So from there, I really got great opportunities to understand like consensus algorithms, infrastructure engineering. And I actually worked for Casper Labs for a while too. So I was,
nice.
Shout out Mernal. Mernal is awesome. Mernal and Meda. And then I had some cool projects. I co-founded the City DAO project. We were the first DAO to own land under the Wyoming DAO LLC law. It was a great community. And, I that's how I actually got to know so many cool people throughout my journey. And that's actually what inspired my sort of idea in the Draper network. So I interned for the Draper Network in the summer of, 2021. I almost forgot, but not too long ago. But it was, definitely I think we were planning something to do something like a big shift in the way that we were doing things. But at that time, we were basically doing, with the City DAO project, we were gearing up to essentially raise through our NFT collection and essentially scout land. And it just got me thinking that just the way that people are asynchronously, because I don't believe that the A in DAOs stands for autonomy. I believe it stands for asynchronous, which is how they they sort of move as well. I think autonomy there needs to be some degree of centralization to control these different types of entities. So I don't think autonomy might be the best word, but it was super asynchronous. And that's when, it was at the end of a Zoom call, I was like gearing up strength to basically talk to my boss. And I was like, hey, let me just like pass this idea. Hey, Sid, why don't we do something like this? Sid was like, oh, I've been thinking about something like this. And I think from there, it was the rest is history, because it went through 8 different iterations before you eventually brought it to Tim in November. And then afterwards, we talked to him again after it was much more finalized with a roadmap in June. And and now it's
we are. What's really exciting is the whole kind of fun part of how all of this came together for me being like, a sideline participant, right? Like watching you guys do this, is that the reason I met Tim and we got along so well over 10 years ago is because I was building a product in the crowdfunding space. And Tim was such a huge fan of bringing deals online and syndicating them and doing online investments and sharing stuff. And the first introduction he made, which, we talked about last week on the stream because we just happened to have Adam Draper on, was to his son. And Adam flew down the next day up from San Mateo down to where I was in Southern California. And eventually we put together Boost Funder, which became Boost. And so we've been the Draper network, Tim, Adam, all the crew around that I've gotten to know over the years have all sort of loved this idea of sharing deals. And, even when DGH joined the Draper network before we were DGH, I remember Tim saying something, because we didn't have a traditional fund structure. And Tim was like, that's all right. You got to show us what you're doing, because you guys are going to probably put us out of business. Right. And the thing is, like, Tim's been saying for 10 plus years that, you know, the internet, then later, you know, like the crowdfunding rules and laws, the internet, then ICOs and crypto and stuff like that. He's been talking about how it's going to put people like him out of business. Right. And it's awesome, you know, to see him support these kind of things. And it's a fun evolution of the Draper network, because where I was actually telling Sid the Kid down below before the call, when I first joined the Draper network as a venture partner at one of the funds who had invested in my previous company that eventually failed, and then they asked me to join them, the way we syndicated and shared deals was every couple months there would be like a phone call. It'd be like a Zoom session or something like that. And we would just be like, hey, what are you working on? I'm working on this deal. Hey, what are you working on? I'm working on this deal. And then we would talk about it, and then you'd share deals that way. Now formalizing it is really fun. And we'll jump into that in just a sec. But Joe, give everyone your background who doesn't already know you. I know most do though. So.
Yeah, for those who know me, I'm a top video game. No, I'm kidding. No, so I run Lunar Crush. I'm the CEO of Lunar Crush, and joined the Draper Roundtable. These two crazy guys, and Baron and Tim, on the Draper Roundtable as a venture partner. And it kind of goes back to what Sid was saying around the family. You know, I've spoken to, at this point in my career, I don't know the list now, maybe 500 different VCs, you know, another couple hundred angel investors. And, you know, you're always, as a founder out there, trying to understand that landscape and how to move around that landscape, how to raise capital for your business, you know, how to raise capital from the right people in the right time, and what's best for the business and the people that are part of that cap table. But then also, you know, bringing people in that are now owners, you know, of your business, right? It's like if you sell someone, you know, half of your car, even though that was your car, it's now their car too, right? Like how do you work in conjunction to make things happen? And that's, everything's a team. And so, you know, just brings me back to 2019 and that first GP CEO LP summit that was out there, and then this last one that I went to. I know there's a little gap there with COVID and everything, but it does feel like a family there, you know. And, you know, for me, having a lot of different opportunities out there for people coming to me, seeing a lot of deals and different things, you know, it just kind of felt like the right fit at the right time to, you know, help these guys in any way that I can, you know, as the CEO of a, you know, growing startup in the Web3 space. And, you know, I see tons of deals, right? And I couldn't really do much about it. You know, and so now there's an outlet for me, and there's an outlet for a lot of other people out there too. Right. And so that's what really got me excited about this, is that it wasn't just a couple of people and, you know, everything's centralized there. Anyone that wants to be a part of this and can kind of contribute in a way has the ability to do so. And so I know Sid will get to that at some point here. So that's what really made me excited about it, and happy to get it out there and be a part of the vision.
I love it. So to break it down a little bit from for the people listening, today there was an announcement that the Draper Roundtable launched, and the Draper Roundtable is what Sid the Kid just was mentioning, which is this platform. So you go to draperroundtable.com, right? People can sign up. So I'm looking at the chat. When Joe joked about games, I then posted a link to a website at dgh.rocks, which is a game I hacked together late one night using open source code that was a pretend Lunar Crush game that I did just to try and impress the Lunar Crush team in our WhatsApp chat. And then people went down the rabbit hole of games launching this weekend, and John from Spirit Punk said Donkey Dash this weekend. I don't know if you guys are following all of the Bored Ape craziness. There's some ridiculous stuff going on right now. It's pretty fun. But so breaking down the Draper Venture Network and the Draper Roundtable. If you're an investor, you can go to the Draper Roundtable, you sign up, and when you get access in a week or two, the first deal will be up. You'll be able to potentially participate in that deal and co-invest alongside with us and some of the other Draper Venture Network funds in that first deal. for people who are entrepreneurs, you'll be able to sign up, and when a Draper Venture Network fund decides to potentially fund you or decides to fund you, then they'll be able to share that deal with the other network funds a lot more easily, right? So it was kind of fun. Sid today sent an email out to a few of our sort of extended Draper Network family members, and it was awesome, to kind of, okay, he sent an email, and every time we do a deal, I send, 50 emails going, I'm leading this investment right now. Let me know if you have any questions or you want to meet the team, right? This is going to make the process so much easier. Plus, folks who aren't already in the network in a way of, look at Eric Manlunas is an example. He's the most active, as last I checked, he was the most active seed fund in Southern California, Wavemaker Partners, right? And they're a part of the Draper Venture Network, and they do lots of deals, and they syndicate deals and all that stuff. And they have, at least a few $100 million across all their funds and things like that. It's awesome. But 99% of us are not Wavemaker Partners with a few $100 million in assets. We're angel investors, or we're individuals who want access to these deals too. And Tim has always been a huge proponent of sharing those deals with everyone. A lot of fund managers and funds, and it's not a knock to them because it's their livelihood, it's their business, are very protective of their deals, share it with certain people if they need to share it, and also a lot of times share it in a way where they take fees on top of it and stuff like that, because they want their investors to just invest in their fund and let them do the work. Something that was interesting that I learned about Tim very early on, and a lot of the kind of culture within the Draper Venture Network, which is kind of like, again, like this family culture, right? We were joking about it, but it really is true, is that a lot of deals get shared, a lot of deals get syndicated, and then Tim has no problem going to his investors and saying, you want to directly invest also? And a lot of investors don't like to do that because, again, they want all of the money that their investors have to go into their fund so they could take a fee and they can take a carry, which means they get to earn a percentage of the profits and things like that, versus letting them go direct. And I think that what you learn early on being open like that gains you so much trust and reputation, right? And I think you end up in the end, in the long run, being a lot more successful and getting, people to really trust you a lot more, because when you do a deal to take a fee on the deal, you're not necessarily doing the deal because it's the best deal in the world that you think, is going to be worth a lot of money 10 years from now. And, I think it's important to kind of set the stage that way. And I'm very excited for the network. I'm going to try and take as much credit as possible for the work that Sid and Sid are doing, only because, I introduced them to Joe. So I've got a question here actually already, and I'd like to dive into some of your guys' plans. But Tarun on LinkedIn asked how the Draper Roundtable is different from Draper X. So Draper X is also a platform that's launching, and it's actually it's within the platform. It's a part of it. Tell me about what the difference is. And Tarun, jump, and everyone else. I'm gonna throw this out again. Go to blockchainbooze.io. It'll redirect you to the chat and backstage on the DGH events site, so you can hang out with the community.
Awesome. Yeah, no, the great question. I can go, and then I guess Sid can pick up if I miss out on anything. But Draper X, we work extremely close with Hambardism and Ham, of course, at Draper X. We are to Draper X as Naval's venture fund is to AngelList. We're a use case. We are nested and we operate right on top of Draper X. So we want this platform to be a nested community and network of existing Draper Network funds, but that does not exclude Draper X members. The Draper X use case is for social discovery and for much more deal-driven aspects. So all of our SPVs that we conduct are through Draper X. We do not create our own sort of Draper Roundtable, fully built SPVs. All of them, and we use Draper X as an SPV partner, and a majority of our community is essentially routed to Draper X. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So if I think, from what I understand is DraperX kind of powers this. And DraperX is going to be a big platform that exists to syndicate deals and do things like that, a technology platform. And the Draper Roundtable is kind of a community that will utilize that platform to syndicate just the Draper network deals, because DraperX will be open to deals, all sorts of deals and types. This is focused on Web3 deals.
This is for now focused on Web3 and fintech deals. But the future of this, it's much beyond that. I'll just say that.
Very cool. Paul also asked if, actually there was a few questions. I think Paul's the latest to ask, but he asked if there is a minimum investment size, what the valuation wheelhouse will look like, and all that.
Yeah, I can take the valuation size and I can pass it off to Sid to discuss about the minimum investment. But typically the roundtable SPV likes to do, like, I wouldn't say like there's a difference between an individual minimum check and the SPV's actual participation overall. The SPV can invest and like to invest anywhere between 1 to 10 million within a company. So we can do, majority to your entire round. $5 million seems to be the sweet spot of the deals that we like. We prefer, just continuing a little bit further, we'd like to be your first check to your first growth round. So we do pre-seed, seed series. Seed series A is probably the sweet spot once again. I'll pass it off to Sid if you're curious about what the minimum, individual LP investment size is.
Yeah. So great question. Let me talk about our overall goal. Our overall goal is based on the premise that in the future we believe that everybody will be an investor. So we're not there yet, but this roundtable is one step towards that. So we want to be as inclusive as possible, but also as efficient as possible. We want founders to get funded quickly. So in terms of you being able to invest with us in our SPV, the minimum size of investment, we'll define it as we go, but we're looking at somewhere between 25 and 50K as a minimum, so that we're not collecting like hundreds of checks to be able to write a check into a company.
And I think that when I spoke with Ham about DraperX and the platform, there is a capability to do anywhere from $1,000 or $5,000. But it also depends on the type of deal and the size and things like that. So also technically, I'll get into the nerdy crowdfunding rules really quick. Technically, the economics don't make sense to do those smaller deals until you get into the crowdfunding rules and laws like Reg CF and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that the Draper roundtable deals will mostly be not under those crowdfunding rules. Like you're not going to be posting on Twitter, go to this link to invest in this company. It'll be more of you find out about the Draper Roundtable, you sign up and verify, or at least self-check that you're an accredited investor, and then you can see the deals that are there that are open. And so that avoids those rules and laws. And then the mechanics end up being a little bit different. Sometimes the economics don't make sense to do super small checks. And then it depends on the deal, because if you want to raise $5 million, you don't want to do it. The company doesn't probably want to take $5,000 checks, although it could depend on the company. Like, I would say, we've had crazy ideas, right? Like we had ideas like, what if we raised money for our conference? And instead of selling tickets, we sold $1,000 investments into the actual conference. And we could have used a crowdfunding platform. We actually talked to Republic about this at one time. We said, look, instead of using like Eventbrite, we just have everyone go straight to a Republic campaign and buy one ticket or a sponsorship or whatever. And every time we do a conference, we like dilute the whole company by 10%, right? And the idea is that each time the valuation would go up or something like that, we come up with like a scheme that's predetermined. So there could be cool ways in which you get the community involved and you do some things. But I think in this particular case, you're looking at taking deals that, you still have to be an accredited investor to participate.
That's correct.
So those rules and laws apply because we're in the United States and those rules and laws apply, which is a major bummer, but it's something we have to deal with. And so the economics kind of end up falling. I think all angel groups that I have ever heard of, like in the United States, have minimum investments of 25K, because that's just kind of how the economics makes the most sense.
Yeah, we're not exactly setting up like AngelList RUVs here for founders. This is for a little bit more of like beyond your friends and family. I would say this is for your first institutional round. That's why we like to say your first check or your first growth. But yeah, no, that's 100%. I echo exactly what Alon says.
Sid, do you want to talk about the token gating and how we're managing that? So
yeah, I did. By the way, somebody, I think it was Timed, asked why you chose Optimism, but I thought that I got my my token gated NFT on Polygon.
It is on Polygon. It is Polygon. So I think one thing that's there about Polygon, one, Tim has invested in it, and it's I'm an Indian dude, so I kind of like those guys. So I think for the most part, the reason we chose Polygon is it's a great hub for adoption. You're seeing them doing a lot of cool stuff. It's also good for scaling. I think one thing that's there is a plasma chain. I don't want to get too much into the nerdy tech, but there are a lot more systems, especially the systems that we're partnering with, that use Polygon as a main base. Optimism, it's not just there yet, I guess, in terms of adoption, in terms of Polygon. But Polygon is definitely the whole mechanic of what we're doing, and I would be more than happy to sort of elaborate on what Sid said on the token gating. So if you're an investor, we want to make sure that your wallet is your identity, and then that's something that we want to echo in the space, because we don't just, we want to put our money where our mouth is. If we're investing in companies that are all about digital identity and all these different types of, amazing infrastructures and beliefs that, your wallet is going to be your identity, your person, your thumbprint. We want to do the same thing with investors. So if you do have a wallet, you will actually be able to essentially sign up with your wallet. You'll get access airdropped straight to your wallet. It's a unlock protocol key. So you'll actually get access to our entire deal room. So if you are a specific member, what's up, Baron? How's it going?
There he is.
But just elaborating, we have two, if you're a Draper Venture Network member, our NFT will discern that. And if you are an external co-investor, our NFT will discern that as well. And it allows us to really manage identity and also create a great way for networks to grow. I think it's a fantastic mechanism because it also, one thing that to understand is that these technologies are extremely scalable. You don't have to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for personalized custom deal rooms. This is something that Web3 communities can easily replicate, and we want to be a first use case of this. Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty cool. They're basically again tying your identity to your crypto wallet, putting an NFT in there once they verify you, and that's kind of your access key. It's pretty fun. I'm hoping that in the future we'll be able to do some fun stuff. This is more of probably a ham feature request, but I want to know that like I could flip the gains from like my NFT right into the next deal, right? That would be fun.
There is something cool that's coming up. Sid and I are discussing something. So if you do,
before we jump in, let's say hi to Baron. So
yes,
on the same lines as taking credit for something that I really didn't do because it's all Sid's hustle. I'm stoked that you guys met Baron at the LA Blockchain Summit, and he's becoming a venture partner for the Draper Roundtable. But Baron, say hi. Where are you at? Are you at Whole Foods?
I'm in Erewhon with my kids.
Erewhon.
We never stop working. Right, guys?
Never.
No, pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. I mean, one, I couldn't say, it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of the Draper Roundtable, to be able to onboard people in a Web3 capacity, to be able to invest in people, to actually get people to understand more, right, and do it collectively together. I think when you look at like the diversity in our group, right, you think about just the opportunities to be problem solvers, right, and identify problems and agree on solving problems with purpose and intent.
I love it, and as you guys know, Baron joined us on some blockchain and booze sessions in the past, and he joined us at LA Blockchain Summit, and he is working on his own venture studio that is building. Flip, who came on, is building metaverses and one of Baron's partners in all that stuff. And they have a whole crew of folks that are building together and in purposefully kind of collaborating called More Than Us, right? MTU. Okay, cool. I wanted to say so I'm excited to see kind of similarly to Joe doing Lunar Crush, gets access to so many deals and opportunities that he gets to pass on to the Draper Roundtable. Baron very, very similarly, but what's wonderful, I think, about the Draper Venture Network, right? It started in my mind geographically, right? Because when I first met Tim and everything going on, 10 years ago, met Sid, met everyone, we'd meet Bloom Ventures from India, and we'd meet, the Blockchain Valley Ventures guys are in Switzerland, and everyone was in a different spot in the world. Wavemaker was doing stuff in Singapore. But because of the internet, right? Like, the location is maybe less important than each person's collective community. And the community has nothing to do with geography anymore. And Baron has access to a completely different community than maybe Joe has access to, than I have access to. But we can come together, and it's like a giant Venn diagram, or like the Olympics logo of things that can happen together. So excited that Baron is joining us. Baron, looks like you're busy, but I want to anything you want to throw out there to the community before you have to sneak off, if you have to sneak off or anything.
I would just say, one, I'm just once again just super excited about utility and community, and basically onboarding people in my community in a way that they live their life based on utility. Utility is real life. And that's how a lot of people kind of earn their way, make their way. And when you think about basketball, you think about Hollywood, you think about the NBA and, the new league. Move. Stop. That's my son. He is super annoying. But he does make his own NFTs. But the thought is like, if we can take real utilities, we're real sports people, we're real, in-life events, and start building community around that, and start marrying the community that's doing that to the people that want to have access to new opportunities. I think that's where we're all aligned and where the focus is, right? Using our bandwidth, our brain powers, our hearts, right? Because it's going to take a real collective effort for any of this to really have mass adoption in the right way.
Yeah, I love it. You talked when we had our session at the conference. Baron talked about being a basketball player and people potentially taking advantage of the other players, or their managers kind of gatekeeping and sending them in certain directions, and Baron deciding to do it himself and kind of taking it in his own directions and making his own investments, and then sharing it with the others. I think the kind of ethos and the drive and the just the vibe of how he did that is very similar to I think what Sid is building with the Draper Venture Network, and also what Tim's kind of ideas always have been, right? Like cutting out the middleman completely, letting people go direct, and participate, like actually participating, not again kind of doing it in these sort of half-assed ways. So I'm really excited that you guys brought Baron on board. I think also, just from a selfish perspective, I think the types of deals that he's been working on, and the metaverse style stuff, and the NFT stuff, and everything else, because there's so much more than the buzzwords, are the type of deals that that we want to be looking at. And maybe that's just because and again, I'm the same guy. A lot of you community members are making fun of me by calling blockchain and booze NFTs and booze half of the weeks, because we've gone down that rabbit hole. So you know, Joe, from your perspective, right? You're so, you know, I was going to say knee deep, but way more than that, neck deep in the crypto space, right? Seeing these deals and opportunities. I think this market is going to change some things, but there is a kind of, using the word vibe again, I think I saw somebody in the chat use the word vibe like 3 times and now it's stuck, but there's a vibe, there's a feeling in the crypto space for sort of a meme that VCs are bad, right? VCs are predatory. There are not, you know, DAOs don't like VCs, right? Like this just, and again, it's not totally true, but I'm exaggerating it a bit, but there is that feeling. Do you believe this is potentially an answer to that? I have some thoughts and feelings, but I just, from your perspective, right? Like, do you feel like this is different from the perspective of a founder, or is this just a different flavor of the same thing?
No, good question. Yeah, we used to have long conversations about that, right? I remember I would be like walking down the beach being like, I hate venture capitalists, right? Like I would just call you. And, you know, I think back to it. This is for me really, you know, how do you change a profession that is so established, right? Like how do you get in and set an example? And for me, it's, you know, I even think back to before, you know, even with COVID, it's like you used to have to go have dinner with 5 different partners or go meet people, fly around. Like it was actually kind of a weird moment when everything and all of these deals started to get done over Zoom, right? But it was a great thing for everyone, right? So much time saved. You still got someone's story, you know, over Zoom and trying to understand what they were building, why they were building it. The speed started to increase. But for me, it's more about, there are so many, especially right now with how many people are losing their jobs, right? And there are so many incredibly smart people that, like, I've had people tell me like they've never lost their job in their life and they're in their 40s. They've never been in a position where they've actually been fired. And this is the first time that that's happened in history to them. And that's happening to a lot of really, really smart people. So I think it's such an incredible time to try and start something new. And there are lots of, you know, right now, I would say in that kind of early stage, pre-seed, seed round, you know, your first check, those investors are hungry. And there is there is still a ton of money sitting on the sidelines. There's a lot of funds that raised during the bull market, and they're just sitting on piles of cash. That money wants and needs to be invested. And it's not getting out to the community the way that it should be getting out to the community at the speed it should be. There's just so much picking and choosing, and there's not a lot of diligence that's being done. And one large venture capital firm will attach themselves to a deal, and then it'll go off and everyone will decide that that's the thing. Even if it's, you know, no one believes in what's going on, it's because one firm went and did it. And so I think there's an opportunity here to open this up, you know, by anyone being able to bring deals in, anyone being able to join to a certain extent there. It's how do you kind of change that and then work your way down that funnel, I think is the way to think about it, that it has the highest, you know, opportunity for success.
So I think there's a dynamic amongst VCs in general that, you know, old school style VCs in general that have given it a bad name to a community of startups, right? In the crypto space, I think that the average person knows and understands terms of deals in the finance world significantly better than everywhere else. And I think it's partly because of the crypto scams, the tokenomics, all the things we kind of have been forced to learn in the crazy roller coaster ride of crypto, but we understand it better, right? And I think this network of folks are a network of folks that treat people right in general. I think Tim is like the tip of the spear of people who, you know, I've seen him not do deals with companies he loves because he didn't feel like the terms were super fair and lined up between the founders and the investors. And he just won't participate in deals where they're not perfectly fair, right? And I love that, because on the flip side, the biggest like asshole VC I've ever met in the history of my life and meeting lots of investors. I remember hearing a VC once tell a founder right in front of me, they were discussing valuation and this and that. And the guy said, you pick whatever valuation you want, I'll set the terms. Right. And basically, you know, because the thing that those kind of, I don't know, I mean, they are predatory. There's predatory terms that like those big firms will throw into things. And I think we have to be careful in this moment, actually, because what I've heard from some funds are that right now we're hitting this bear market. It's much harder for companies to raise money. People have, you know, from my perspective, I go, okay, there's two sides to it. There's the bad side for the entrepreneurs because it's just harder and scarier. They've got to make it through. And then there's the good side of looking at it of like, hey, it means that, you know, I get to invest in more deals at better terms. That's great. But there is a certain VC funds and groups who are looking at that going, you know, I can now do the deal. I can throw those terms back in. I could ask for liquidation preferences and things like that. And it's, you know, there's terms like that, like a liquidation preference means it could be 2x, 3x, 5x, whatever. Let's pretend it's 5x, which is extreme. But like that would mean, for example, for every dollar I invest in you, I get $5 back before you get $1, right? And the fair thing is usually agree on terms, right? Whatever the valuation is, I buy that percentage of the company from you. And the only kind of preference that an investor should maybe have is to get their money back first, and then everybody splits their percentages, right? That's the most common and the most fair way of doing it. But there are VCs that are trying to do those kind of crazy things right now in deals. And I think that a network like this, even though it's not meant to specifically combat that specific thing I brought up, but is never going to do something like that. And it's a bunch of people who I know do fair deals and want to invest in the best entrepreneurs around the world, regardless of where they are in the world, regardless of anything other than they're a great entrepreneur that has a great deal.
And even to jump in on that, we actually screen for that when we're bringing investors on. So before we bring an investor into our network, we'll have conversations with founders, with other investors. We're looking for people that play the long game. They play well with others. So those are important conversations before we say, yeah, this person can be in our network, because it's much easier to stop them at the gate than to try to get them out later on. So we do screen for that. It's super important.
I think it's one of the things that, you know, joining the Draper Venture Network, I was a part of it as an entrepreneur when Wavemaker and Tim had invested in my previous company, and I got to go to a couple CEO summits from that perspective, and it was incredibly valuable. I got to meet great investors, great people, great other CEOs of startups, and it was really awesome. But when I joined Wavemaker later as a venture partner there, and I got to attend as an investor, it was like, that's where it really blew my mind. Because one, I still don't think of myself as a very, very experienced investor. And I just sucked up every bit of knowledge I could from people like Eric and people like you, people like Tim, who I got to meet at the network. But that exactly what you just said, like screening for people being good people that work together well, like you want to hang with these people. Like I look forward to going to the DVN summit just as much to hang with my friends as I will to do deals with them and hang out, because it's a very different than a normal investor networking session. This isn't going to, I brought this up last week, so I feel like I'm now doubling down on the ridiculousness of it, but this isn't going to a Pasadena Angels meeting at, you know, a weird golf course at 7:30 a.m. and hanging out with a bunch of gray haired dudes wearing bow ties.
Oh no, Pasadena Angels dig.
I know, but you know what? I will say one of my favorite investors, and I'll give him a shout out.
I was going to say
one of my favorite investors I know through the Draper Venture Network. I may have met him before at one of those Pasadena Angels things, so I didn't get to know him yet. So that's judging a book by its cover and me being a jerk. So I'll call myself out on that. But Stender Sweeney, who was a big Pasadena Angels, probably one of the most active angels ever as part of that group, is a rock star. And I learned
Sten
a
is
lot
amazing.
from him. He later, full disclosure, became an LP in our fund, but he now lives in my neck of the woods. So forget Pasadena. So just, but really that's what if you showed up at one of those meetings, right? That's what the stereotypical, how you would think the old school VC landscape would be. A bunch of older people. One time I was in one of those meetings and somebody leaned in, half joking, half serious, leaned into me and whispered something. He was a man of color, and he said something to me about being Jewish. And then he leaned into me and he's like, "I don't think we'd be allowed on this golf course 50 years ago." And I was like, and it was like, oh shit. And I didn't think of it till that moment. But again, that's what you think of when you think of that old guard. No women, very few people of color, very few people who don't, aren't white, gray-haired, retired guys, right? And this world is completely changing and shifting. And like we said before, the best entrepreneurs in the world they don't all live in Silicon Valley. They live everywhere in the world. They don't all look the same. And it's the same with investors. And so this network is really
also, Alon, some people don't know that they can be entrepreneurs. Some people think it's too big of a gate to go over. Oh no, like how am I going to get benefits from my family if I'm maybe, like the most successful entrepreneurs are people that start in their 40s. People don't realize this, but they're too scared to go do it. But there are tools out there, for you to get started, for very cheaply, especially now. And so it's just like, go after that idea, right? If you've had that idea, like now is the best time. There are investors that are just frothing right now to try and write a $25,000 check to you. There's hundreds of millions of dollars on the sidelines waiting for you, the entrepreneur, to get started, right? So it's like, go out there and make your dreams come true. It's totally possible. What do you have to lose? And I think people don't understand the dynamic of risk, right? They think, they think they're gonna, oh no, my family's not gonna, care about me anymore, or all my friends are gonna say I failed, or whatever else it may be. The only risk you have is not doing it, because the experience that you're gonna get from at least trying is tenfold what you're gonna get from sitting in that cubicle, right? And everyone has the ability to go do it.
Everyone has the ability to do it. There's kind of like two sides. There's the one you just don't know, right? Like there's just like people you don't know what you don't know. Like we don't know that we have the financial, we talk about this all the time in the crypto space. And I joked about, I had a job. I got Amazon stock as part of that job. I sold that stock to put the down payment on my condo because that's the only money I had, right? And every wealthy, rich person I talked to later on would look at me and be like, why didn't you just borrow against your stock? Who knows that you can do that kind of thing? Like, most of us never knew that that's a possibility, right? Most of us are, if you just grow up like a normal person, you don't know that you can call your representative at Schwab and take out a line of credit against the stock you own. Like, it's just insanity just to even think that that's like a normal thing. And then the second side of the not knowing that it's a possibility is it's also now more realistic than ever for any idea to go out there. Like it's cheaper and easier to launch something, to do something globally than ever before. I've joked about my past, right? And I worked at MySpace, and the people I worked with at MySpace were the people who created an online karaoke company. Back then they needed I forgot, it was like 20 something dedicated servers at the LAX data center just to run their company that could be run in your browser now by one person very simply over a weekend, right? But back then you needed servers and all this extra stuff. And the monthly bill for those servers was tens of thousands of dollars a month. Now compare that to the free tier of Amazon servers you could get and things like that. But what you don't know, right? And it's now possible, and it's now doable for anyone, no matter where you are in the world. There aren't gatekeepers, and actually more and more every day there seems to be more gatekeeping happening in the United States than other places in the world, if you're in our space, right? And so I'm so excited. We're running on time, and I'm talking too much. So I want to point to Sid M at the top. From your perspective, running the Draper Venture Network, what's your biggest, what's the most important thing you want to bring to the table running the Draper Venture Network, and for the foreseeable future?
So I think we alluded to it a little bit earlier on, the fact that the industry is changing, and it's changing pretty quickly. Whenever we have our catch-up conversations with Tim, we're always talking about, how are things changing, and how do we position ourselves to be in this industry 30 years from now. So this organization was started 30 years ago when there were very few VCs around the world. And Tim's vision was that one day venture capital will be everywhere. And that day's arrived. We're here today. But what about 30 years from now? And the vision for 30 years from now is really that venture capital may not exist in the form it is today. It likely won't. But what will it be like? I think it will be more decentralized. I think it will be more open, more accessible. So everything we do is towards that end, taking steps towards that. So we're going to see, beyond the Draper Roundtable, there's going to be other products that we launch that are moving towards that, allowing more and more people to basically participate in this economy. We're very bullish on Web3, and we think there's a lot of value to come to the world from Web3. So we're going to keep digging deeper and deeper. And we see it with the funds that are coming to join our network as well. At first it was, just Tim investing in Bitcoin, and then Draper Going Home joined, and they were doing 100% focused on blockchain companies. Then we had more and more funds. And then now we're getting funds that were not doing Web3 investments at all, saying, oh, no, for our next fund, it's a big part of what we're doing. So we believe it's becoming more and more integral to investing, founding companies, and we'll just keep creating new products to allow more people to participate in this economy that's forming. So it feels like we're in the early days of this, and there's a lot more to come, and we're just excited to be part of it.
I absolutely love it. We learned from Joe and Lunar Crush and the Twitter community, or the crypto community as a whole, that there's no crypto without community, right? And everything is based in communities. And we used to talk about the internet giving you access to niche markets, right? I wrote a piece about this like 10 plus years ago because I was looking at social media being an innovative new thing, back in the day. And we talked about punk. I always find a way to sneak punk rock into the conversation. And I would say, there were 8 kids in each grade at my school that were into punk rock. And at lunchtime, if a band played on the quad, there'd be maybe 25 of us, 30 of us punk rockers at the whole school. But then you turn 16 years old, and now there's like 6 high schools within a driving, 1 hour driving radius or a certain amount of radius, right? And then all of a sudden you get older, you're in college, you could drive up to Northern California and go here, you could go there. And the network just keeps spiraling out and growing. But it's like a small group of people around, and then social media happened. And the internet happened, and the world became much smaller. And all of a sudden, you could reach those 30 high school kids that are into the music that you like at every single school around the world. All of a sudden, that tiny community became a really big opportunity, right? A band that nobody knew about could post a song on MySpace and have 30,000 people listen to it because they got popular in the Philippines, right? Like things like that were happening. And that's what's happening with ideas, with deals, with the internet, and it's happening each cycle. It happens faster, right? When I met Tim 10 years ago and I was doing my crowdfunding startup, you couldn't watch a movie over the internet. Like you couldn't. It was if you did, it was pixelated and shitty. You had to download it to your machine. It took hours and it sucked. That was just 10 years ago. So where are we going to go 10 years from now, right? I'm so excited for the future. Baron is back. The whole crew is on right now. Why don't we do a little quick round of, tell everyone where to follow you, where we can keep the conversation going, and a little cheers to the Draper Roundtable and sharing deals together and working on the future. Let's start with Sid again. We'll go around. We'll end with Baron, unless you're pressed for time, Baron. We could start with you. Go the other way.
No, I'm fine. You can just. I'm in the crowd.
Hey, nothing attracts a crowd more than a crowd.
Cool. I can start. So between Sid and me, we are polar opposites. He's the tech whiz. I'm very analog and old school. So you're going to find me on LinkedIn. It's Sid Mofya on LinkedIn. And just a very quick plug. In a few weeks, Sid and I are going to launch a masterclass on investing in Web3. Sid is going to be the tech whiz, and I'll be the Dumbo that asks him all the stupid questions. So basically, everybody can join in. So we'll be able to share that, so you can find me on LinkedIn and
I'll share that with the community. And Sid is being very what's the word? When you don't want to talk about yourself so much.
Modest. Yeah, he's super modest.
Yeah. I had half of a 2% alcohol drink, and I'm already. But Sid is being very humble, but he is extremely well connected. In the Draper network, kind of one of the main things he does is connect entrepreneurs and investors with corporates, corporate VCs, and corporate partners. And he's made introductions to so many of our portfolio companies, to some of the top companies in the world. And he's just very, very well connected. So he's being very humble, and I'll give him extra love because he is one of, he's probably the first person I always go to our portfolio companies when they're like, hey, we need a connection to this and this. And I went, did you go to the Draper Network website? Did you contact Sid? Why didn't you contact Sid? Sid knows exactly who you need to talk to, and so I really appreciate you, Sid, and thank you for everything that you do. Joe, give us the lunar plug.
First off, I think Alon's you're like the hustle guy and the energy guy, right? Like you're that hustle guy getting out there. So we're gonna need you to be part of it. But for me, I mean, I'll be the.
Hey, I told you it's a family thing. I'm taking credit for everything you guys are doing because I made some of the connections. So that's it. I get to I'm like the uncle at the dinner table who didn't do anything, but I'm like, I made you guys. It's like, that's it.
The band manager.
Oh no, they're the worst.
No, I mean, I'll bow out to these guys. I'm here to support these guys, and I'm super glad to be a part of this. Check everything out at Draper Table on Twitter, draperroundtable.com. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're out there, looking to get funded, there's money to be had. We want to help you out. So come to draperroundtable.com. I
love that you're staying focused, but everyone also go to lunarcrush.com. Joe is the CEO of Lunar Crush. They are, if you're a regular on Blockchain Booze, you've already heard it. But if you're not, it is the best place to gather data. I had an epiphany this week. I said, I've decided Lunar Crush is now my crypto wingman. Ever since you guys launched, I stopped calling Joe and John, the two founders of Lunar Crush, or the two of the three founders of Lunar Crush, who I used to call all the time, like, what is happening? Like, what should I be doing? What is going on? I've now stopped calling them, asking them those questions, because Lunar Crush exists in such a major way. And now I just ask them now it just calls for feature requests.
That's the whole premise of Lunar Crush. Just stop bugging your friends.
Yeah, that's it. Sid the Kid down below.
Yeah, I mean, echo what Joe said. Go to @Draper Table on Twitter. Follow us. A lot of announcements there on who's getting funded, who's joining us, all that cool stuff. I don't think I'm also on LinkedIn. This is my name right here. But you can also follow me at the Sid Sridhar on every single platform: Instagram, Twitter, even Telegram. Feel free to send me a DM there. Super happy to be responsive, and like Joe said, if you're a company out there, let's get you funded.
Love it. Baron, give us some plugs and where to follow all of the amazing initiatives you are working on outside of the Draper Roundtable.
I appreciate everybody. Apologies, I'm at the house. You can find me at I am Baron Davis and Baron Davis on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. You can also follow me at More Than Us NFT on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm excited because I get to go to All-Star Weekend with these guys as a part of our big Business Inside the Game Summit. So, I think, what this round table and what Lunar and Joe and Sid, you got real masterminds and gatekeepers of, trust going into this new space, right? So I'm super excited to be like the captain, the champion, and wave the flag.
Wait, when is this All-Star Weekend? Am I inviting myself? Am I
Absolutely
hiding in Joe's trunk? What's going on here? Oh, I'll bug you guys after. We can't do this on
February 16th through 19th, Salt Lake City.
16th through 19th. Is All-Star Weekend in LA this year?
It's in Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake.
Oh, Salt Lake City.
SLC.
That's a fun city to go to, actually. Cool. All right. Oh, yeah. People are posting in the chats in Utah. Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'll give the last plug. If you go to blockchainbooze.io, it'll redirect you into the EGH events site. You can turn on your camera. We can hang out. I'll be there for a little while until my family starts giving me the eye and telling me that we're having dinner. And feel free to throw your camera on, say hi to the community. It's a fun time. Baron, Sid, Joe, thank you so much for joining. Blockchain Booze number 147. Dang, awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
so
Sam,
much.
good to see ya.